Karoline Leavitt is leaving the White House, and an insider is revealing just how sudden her departure really was. The White House reportedly had no replacement ready, but some surprising names are already being floated for the job. And one of the frontrunners could completely change the role. Let me break it down. It happened on a Wednesday in the middle of August. President Trump posted on Truth Social that his press secretary, describing her as one of my most trusted aides, said in a social media post that Leavitt will be departing her role at the end of the month so she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Leavitt followed with her own statement, writing that since returning to the White House after the birth of her daughter, she had felt in her heart that she could not be the best mom her two young children deserved, while devoting the constant time, energy, and attention required of the job. And that was why she had made the decision to depart and start a new chapter. That's the official version. But a White House source told reporters something that turned the story into a bigger deal than just a farewell post. That Leavitt quit so suddenly, the administration doesn't even have plans to fill the position ahead of the midterms. And that detail checks out, according to reporting from The Independent. The White House plans to leave the press secretary's job vacant after Karoline Leavitt steps down at the end of August, according to a White House official. Instead of naming someone new, the source said the administration expects to continue holding press briefings led by senior officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, all potential candidates for the next Republican presidential primary, who previously rotated through the briefing room during Leavitt's maternity leave. Think about that for a second. One of the most public-facing jobs in the entire government. And with the midterms less than 3 months away, they're just going to leave it empty. NBC News later confirmed that Trump might not name a permanent replacement for Leavitt until after the November midterm elections, according to an administration official, who said that while Trump does intend to replace her, he's in no hurry to do so. That's a strange flex for a White House that usually loves to control the narrative fast. And it's exactly why the timing of her exit has raised eyebrows. She'd only just come back from maternity leave. NBC reported that Trump announced Leavitt, 28, the youngest White House press secretary in history, was set to step down to spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. Neither of them said one word about who might come next. Neither Trump nor Leavitt indicated in their social media posts who might succeed her. Vice President Vance jumped in with praise, telling the internet Leavitt has one of the hardest jobs in the administration, and adding he knew how difficult yet rewarding a constant job like this can be for a young parent. Marco Rubio, who'd stood at that podium himself while she was out on leave, added his own tribute. But behind the tributes, sources kept pointing back to the same thing: this wasn't planned months out. It landed on the building overnight, and even people who work there weren't sure what came next. It was not immediately clear to some White House staff who would fill the role, a source told CNN. Here's where the rumors get interesting, because not everybody is buying the "spend more time with family" line at face value. And even people close to Trump are giving conflicting accounts of how this actually went down behind closed doors. One version, sourced to insiders speaking with the Daily Mail, paints this as Trump being the reluctant party. Sources told the Daily Mail that Trump really didn't want her to leave because he actually trusts her, while another source revealed she was just trying to figure out how to politely step down with his blessing. That's a very different picture from a press secretary blindsiding the boss. It suggests Leavitt had been quietly angling for an exit for a while and was simply waiting for the right moment to ask permission. But there's a second thread of rumor running underneath that one, and it has to do with everything Leavitt was asked to defend at that podium over the past year. This year, Leavitt has had to answer questions about a series of mishaps, mistakes, and scandals involving the administration. The catastrophic war in Iran, the Epstein files, the president's disastrous and expensive renovations, and several other departures of top aides. People inside Washington have been connecting that list directly to her timing, that the job simply became too much to defend, on top of raising 2 kids under the age of 3. The Epstein files, in particular, kept following her around even as she left. Just months before her exit, a clip resurfaced of Leavitt on a podcast calling the Epstein story "classic Washington hoax," arguing that Democrats on the Oversight Committee were leaking redacted information to reporters who then ran with it. That clip went viral again, right as news of her departure broke, with critics resurfacing months of her podium answers on the topic, including her telling reporters back in November that newly released emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. Then there's the online chatter that spun out from that original insider tweet about her sudden exit. Commenters speculating that Leavitt had grown uncomfortable being put in front of cameras to defend the administration on subjects tied to Epstein, on top of everything else stacking up. None of that has been confirmed by anyone inside the West Wing, and it remains speculation traveling through replies and quote tweets rather than anything sourced to an official. But it tells you how fast a sudden, unexplained exit can snowball into theories once a building goes quiet on the details. What isn't speculation is how unusual her departure looks stacked against the rest of the administration this year. Leavitt isn't the first senior woman to leave Trump's team in 2026. She's the fifth. Leavitt is the fifth woman in a high-ranking position to leave the Trump administration this year, following Pam Bondi as Attorney General, Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary, Lori Chavez de Rumeur as Labor Secretary, and Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. And all four before her were replaced by men. That pattern alone had insiders buzzing before Leavitt's own exit even happened. And it's part of why so much attention has landed on who, or who doesn't, replace her next. Even her own colleagues seemed caught off guard by how it was handled. One former Trump spokesperson said publicly he was surprised the administration would let the job sit empty rather than name someone right away, a Sentiment News Nation reported directly. Trump praised Leavitt as one of his most trusted aides and called her one of the best White House press secretaries in the history of the office. While no replacement had been announced, though several names were already being floated, Stephen Cheung, the communications director himself, told CNN in a text that she is one of one. Nobody will ever be able to do what she did. Scott Jennings, appearing on CNN the same night, said flatly that he didn't know who'd take the job, but that Karoline Leavitt had been maybe the greatest White House press secretary in the last 30 years, calling her nothing short of brilliant. So you've got a White House publicly showering her with praise, privately unsure who fills her chair, and a swirl of theories from insiders and internet sleuths, alike trying to fill in the blanks on why a 28-year-old at the top of her game would walk out the door with barely a month's notice. And that brings us to the part of this story that's actually blown people's minds. Not the exit itself, but who's now being floated to stand behind that podium. The frontrunners aren't career press officials. They're some of the most combative personalities in Trump's orbit. At the top of multiple reports sits Alina Habba, Trump's former personal attorney, who briefly served as acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. Before a federal court ruled, she'd been unlawfully appointed to that post. Time reported that Habba is reportedly being considered to take over as press secretary when Leavitt departs, according to sources within and close to the administration. After stepping down from the U.S. Attorney role, Habba moved into a role as senior advisor to then Attorney General Pam Bondi. Right alongside her is Matthew Boyle, the Washington bureau chief for Breitbart, a name that would represent a sharp turn toward conservative media rather than traditional political staffing. Boyle is also reported to be in the running, with sources telling the Post that he, like Habba, is a frontrunner to replace Leavitt. What's notable is that Boyle has never previously worked for Trump in either a private capacity or as part of his administrations, which would make him one of the most unconventional press secretary picks in modern history if it happens. Then there's the internal candidate everyone in the building already knows, Anna Kelly, Leavitt's own principal deputy. The Hill described her as the natural pick, noting Anna Kelly, who serves as principal deputy press secretary at the White House, seems like the natural successor to Leavitt. CNN pointed out she's one of a small handful of staffers authorized to speak as a surrogate on outlets including Fox News. Prediction markets have actually started pricing this race in real time. According to Kalshi's own reporting, Kalshi markets put Anna Kelly at 23% and Alina Habba at 13% as the market shifts in the race to replace Karoline Leavitt. The same report noted that the candidate who has gained the most ground is already within the West Wing. Anna Kelly, the principal deputy press secretary, who now leads the Kalshi market and could be a viable option for promotion from within. Stephen Cheung himself is also in the mix, despite his own glowing tribute to Leavitt. Reports note he already carries out some responsibilities associated with the press secretary position, including meeting with reporters, distributing information, and attempting to shape news coverage, though he has generally stayed away from the daily on-camera briefing role. Beyond him, the list keeps growing. Other names floated across multiple outlets include Stephen Miller, the president's senior policy advisor. Scott Jennings, the political analyst and commentator Trump has publicly praised, as well as Monica Crowley, the current U.S. chief of protocol, and Katie Miller, who previously worked alongside Elon Musk at the Department of Government Efficiency. CNN's own rundown even named 2 additional dark horses. Tricia McLaughlin, the former DHS spokesperson known for her combative border policy defenses, and Elizabeth Pipko, a former model and RNC spokesperson with close ties to the Trump family, who was reportedly in the running for this exact job the first time around, before Leavitt got it. Tricia McLaughlin, who became a frequent presence on cable news during her time, aggressively defending Trump's border policies as DHS spokesperson, could be another option. While Elizabeth Pipko, a former model and Republican National Committee spokesperson with close ties to the Trump family, was under consideration for the job before Leavitt's selection. But here's the twist that makes this whole story land differently than a typical staffing shuffle. None of these names may matter for months. Every outlet chasing this story keeps circling back to the same headline fact: the podium might just sit empty. There is speculation that Trump could decide against immediately naming one permanent replacement, and instead use a rotating group of administration officials to brief reporters, an approach the White House experimented with while Leavitt was on maternity leave. When Rubio, Vance, Bessent, and CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz each appeared before reporters. So the insane part of this story isn't really a scandal buried in the fine print, it's the scale of the gamble. A White House heading into a midterm fight, willingly going without a single face at the podium, betting instead on a rotating cast of cabinet officials, several of whom are already jockeying for 2028 to carry the message. Leavitt's exit set off theories about Epstein fatigue, quiet burnout, and a boss who reportedly didn't want to let her go. Whichever version insiders eventually confirm, the fact remains: the youngest press secretary in history left with barely a month's warning, and left behind a job so specific to her that, for now, nobody inside that building is even sure it needs replacing at all.